Hi, a few days ago I did a drunken rant video about movies I hate, and I left one out. I mentioned it, but I didn't talk about it, and that movie was Halloween 2018. And I do want to talk about it, but instead of just talking about just that one film, I'm going to take advantage of the subject matter and talk about the entire Halloween franchise. Um, and it's not going to be in depth at all. I'm just going to go over them in order of release and very quickly give my opinion, general opinion of them. But there are 11 movies to go over, so let me get this thing going. Starting with, of course, the original John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. And I remember as a kid hearing about this film and being like, how can any movie really be worthy of calling itself Halloween? Because to call itself Halloween, that kind of suggests that it encapsulates everything that Halloween represents. And no movie can do that. So where does it get off calling itself Halloween? That's what I was thinking as a kid, well before I saw it. And the first time I saw it was, I guess, in my early 20s. I rented it from Hollywood Video on VHS. And I think it was like the 25th anniversary VHS, 20th. It was an anniversary VHS. So it was widescreen, not Panoscan. And I loved it. Yeah, it's a lean, suspense-based, very effective little horror film. Very well directed, edited, good music. Yeah, it works really well. I did laugh a little bit at some of the acting. Some of the line deliveries were a little bit, uneven. But I'm so used to it now, I don't even notice. It's just what it is, and I enjoy it. And of course, it's a movie, of course, that kind of launched, kickstarted the whole slasher subgenre. But unlike a lot of the slasher films that came after it, it wasn't graphic at all. It was, there's like a couple tablespoons of blood and that's it. There's, it's, and I think that's just in the early, the opening scene. And then you have the scene where the girl gets, killed in the car, gets her throat sliced in the car. Her throat is in full view of the camera, and the knife clearly goes across, and the motion happens, and you can plainly see her throat is not harmed. It's very old school acting something out, and it would be laughable if the movie wasn't working so freaking well otherwise. So you go with it because everything's just clicking. Everything else is just clicking. And like I said, there's no exploitation type feel to this film. Even when you have the girl saying, in bed saying, "See anything you like?" You get like half a second of nipple. That's it. You have to like look real quick to see anything you like. I think you actually see a little bit more when he's strangling her a minute later with the phone cord. But like I said, not doesn't have an exploitation movie feel to it all. It's a tasteful slasher film, and a very well done one. It still holds up. You can watch it as many times as you like. It's still quite enjoyable. Moving on. Halloween 2. I don't remember what my reaction to Halloween 2 was when I first watched it all those years ago. But I did rewatch it last year, and my reaction was that it felt more like an unintentional comedy than a horror film. It's just, it doesn't work as a horror movie for me. It doesn't have any real suspense to it. The only horrific part of the film that I remember is if you notice it, the mother bringing her son into the hospital with a razor in his mouth, a razor blade in his mouth. But otherwise, it's kind of a little humdrum. The beginning of it, where Michael is still roaming the neighborhood and just wandering into people's houses. That was effective. I like that. But when the action centers on the hospital stuff, it's doesn't really work. I mean, the movie is a little bit more R-rated than the first one. It has a little bit more. It has more language. It has some nudity in it, but and the kills are a little bit more graphic, but um, it doesn't really add up to a particularly, you know, thrilling experience. You know, um, it's still a humdrum. For me, my favorite part is when the shoes drop. When that nurse has her death scene, gets stabbed in the back, lifted up, and her shoes just drop. It's funny. I mean, like I said, it's more of a comedy than a horror film. Now, I know there are some people who love this movie, and that's great if you enjoy it as a comedy or as a horror film or horror comedy, whatever. I'm glad for you. Hope you keep on enjoying it. But for me, it's kind of meh. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching it again necessarily. I don't think it's terrible, but it's not, you know, up to standards, I guess. But moving on to Halloween 3, which of course is the standalone movie, Season of the Witch. Has nothing to do with the first two movies. Instead, it has this, you know, whole Silver Shamrock plot thing going on, and which is a good plot. You know, the story is a good story. The movie has a great look to it, very Halloween-y look to it. But for me, again, it does not stick the landing. It kind of falls flat in the third act. Yeah, it's got some good elements in there, but it doesn't really all combine to a solid, you know, entertaining viewing experience for me. Now, I know the movie has gotten a lot more appreciation, a lot more fan. You know, there's a lot of I see a lot of people being very positive about it online, saying, you know, this is such a great rewatch, blah blah blah. And you know, if you're a person who loves Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, it's at one of your favorite October rewatches or just anytime rewatches, then great for you. I'm glad. But for me, it didn't quite work. It was a good try though. Anyway, then see Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Clearly saying, okay, yeah, we're not doing one of the standalones again. We're going back to 1 and 2. Again, it has a good look to it, a good fall look to it. The final girl I like a lot. Of course, the Danielle Harris's character is really good. Donald Pleasance is back as Dr. Loomis, always dependable. And it's, you know, a good, solid Halloween film. It starts off a little bit slow, but it's still you know, a good, all in all, Halloween film. And of course, it's got that great ending where it looks like Danielle Harris's character is turning into the new Michael Myers, and ends with you know, Dr. Loomis screaming no, and he's got that whole the rooftop chase, and it's got a lot of good stuff in there. So yeah, thumbs up there. Then we get to Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, which, you know, the stuff that's left over from 4 still works. Of course, unfortunately, you know, we kill off the final girl from 4. But yeah, it's a mixed bag. You know, the whatever flowed over from 4 is good, but all the new stuff, you know, that cult that's taking care of Michael Myers is nah. That doesn't work. That don't care for that. So it's a movie I would have to force myself to watch again. Mainly out of curiosity as to how it actually goes, because I'm forgetting. Which also brings me to part 6, which I'm also forgetting how it went. Which, you know, part 6, so embarrassed that it didn't even bother to get a number. It's just the curse of Michael Myers, which I guess reflects the filmmakers' how the filmmakers felt about the making of this film, but um, it's maybe the first time I watched it, I was like, what am I watching? What is going on? And yeah, I didn't care for it at all the first time, but the second time I watched it, I actually did enjoy it. Kind of, sort of. I mean, going in and realizing it's kind of a mess and just kind of accepting that, it kind of allowed me to just go with it and have fun with it, even though I still can't remember actually anything that happens in it. um, that brings me to the seventh, Halloween H2O, 20 years later, which is a movie I loved when I first watched it, and I still like it. It starts with the nurse from the first movie having her second encounter with Michael Myers, and it doesn't go for her as well for her this time. Uh, I thought they did a really good job with Laurie Strode's character in this film. And it reminds me that years ago I had an idea about remaking Halloween 3 and having having it with Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, but kind of combining it with the plot of Season of the Witch, so that Laurie Strode could be like an investigative journalist or student, or journalist student or something like that, and she's investigating the Silver Shamrock Company because they've got some shady stuff going on. So she's investigating them, and instead of the dude, right? And then Michael Myers kind of inadvertently does some good stuff, does something good by killing off the Silver Shamrock people, simply because they're in his way as he's trying to get to Laurie. But that would, and so she's investigating, he's following, he's killing off the other bad guy. One bad guy's killing off another bad guy, and then at the end of the film, Laurie could fake her death, which would lead then into H2O, where she's assumed to know identity and all that. And, it's trying to start a new life, but it's still haunted by a past. And so yeah, I thought H2O was really well done. And of course that moment where she is sending her son away off the campus and then grabs the axe and shouts out, "Michael!" Getting goosebumps just saying that. It's a great moment where the hunted turns into the hunter, and she has that wonderful just whole sequence battling Michael again. I thought that worked really well. Granted, the mask in Halloween H2O was not that good. It's one of the poorest masks in the series, but I like the movie overall anyway, so much anyway that I'm willing to forgive it. It's fine. I'm not gonna gripe about that. So yeah, there's H2O. Then we get to Halloween 8, Resurrection, which is, granted, a movie that really a film that's made simply because the series is still making money, but the opening sequence is terrible. They start by retconning the end of H2O and killing off Laurie Strode. It's a terrible way to begin the film. But then again, what else were they going to do? I mean, Michael got beheaded at the end of H2O. But anyway, but if you can overlook that, if you can maybe just skip over that, the rest of the movie is kind of fun. Just a kind of a haunted house film with Michael Myers in it. If you're not taking it seriously, then you can have fun with it. I had fun with it. I just skip over the first part and then just hop in and enjoy. And then that brings us to the Rob Zombie Halloween films. And Rob Zombie movies, of course, can be a bit crude, a bit unnecessarily vulgar, and the first time I tried watching his Halloween film, that did turn me off. I didn't watch the whole thing the first time because some of the vulgarity and meanness in it. But um, the second time I watched it and watched it all the way through, I found that, once I kind of accepted that, got past that, that it was actually pretty decent. I liked it. I'm not calling it a masterpiece, but I think it was a good effort. Um, the scenes of violence were well done, very effective. Um, I thought the girl who was cast as Laurie was good. Um, and of course, they recast Danielle Harris, and it had a good look to it, and it was a pretty satisfying Halloween film. Oh yeah. And then the sequel, while it has its issues, I also liked. I mean, granted the whole vision of his mother and the white horse and the younger version of himself, that makes no sense. I mean, that was basically just an excuse to have for Rob Zombie to have his wife in the film again. But I mean, none of that. It's like, what is going on there? But the rest of the movie, of course, the opening sequence is a dream sequence, but kind of overlooking some of that, the rest of it works. It's like I said, it's got its issues, but overall it works. I do think that Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is a better sequel to his Halloween film than the original Halloween 2 is to the original Halloween. So yeah, there's that. Which brings me to Halloween 2018, which I'm not sure whether that's supposed to be a direct sequel to the first film or the second film, but I remember seeing the trailer for it and thinking the trailer looked really good. I was excited to see it. Somehow I didn't get to see it in the theater, thank goodness. I rented it later from Redbox. And my first impression of it while I was watching it was that it was boring. I was strongly tempted to just turn it off halfway through because I was just bored with it. But I forced myself to watch the whole thing. After which my verdict was basically just, it looks good, but it's boring. That was my immediate opinion. And then the next day I was continuing to think about it, and I was like, wait a minute. These characters are all terrible. Every single one of them. In fact, they're not even characters. They're just cardboard cutouts. They're just there to represent this thing is just basically a Me Too feminazi propaganda movie with a guy in a Michael Myers mask in it. I mean, all the men are pathetic in some way. They're either weak or they're jerks or they're straight up evil. There's not a single good male character in there, and the female characters aren't even any better. They're all unlikable, whiny, just bitches. They're all just bitches. And like I said, they're not even characters. They're just cardboard cutouts to represent caricatures of men being horrible things in every way, and then the women all being just victims. And we're supposed to support, be rooting for the women just because they're women. I mean, or they're female. They're played by actresses. And ignoring the fact that there's nothing actually likable about them. There's nothing really root forable about them. It's, like I said, just pure propaganda, and that doesn't lend itself to good storytelling. That doesn't lend itself to an entertaining film. It's, they just took a franchise and stuck some familiar imagery in it, but then just made their own agenda movie with that. And it was boring and it was crap, just absolute garbage. So obviously I did not watch Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends. Why would I? Why would I watch the follow-ups to this movie that was so terrible and so obviously just agenda driven? So I haven't watched those, but it was funny when Halloween Ends came out, and I saw people online complaining about it because the filmmakers made some choices that a lot of people didn't like, evidently, and and I was seeing these comments, and I was kind of just laughing, being like, "Well, what did you expect? what did you expect from a sequel to this? Really?" And you know what? You kind of deserve it too, because you support garbage, you get more garbage. That's the way it works. So, yeah, the director of those movies needs to hand in his man card. Yeah. So the Halloween series, for the most part, pretty enjoyable. There's some ups and downs in the quality of it. Some issues here and there, but for the most part, they're watchable, enjoyable, and worth checking out until you get to the agenda movies. So anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening. Bye.